Welcome to Why We're Fans. I'm Duran, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Gennaro.
In all of our episodes, we cover the past, present, and the future of all your favorite NFL football teams.
We love hearing your stories, talking the NFL draft, and reminiscing about the good old days.
If you like the same, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this episode. And leave a comment below if you want to answer any of our questions.
Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on our latest interviews. And like we always say, win or lose, we're all fans. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Why We're Fans. It's your host, as always, myself. You got Gennaro Munez, and over there, we got Duran Munez. Duran, how's it going today, bud?
Good, man. I'm ready to talk some football. It's been a while, but we got a team coming up that might have some changes going. I don't even know who their defensive coordinator is yet. So maybe we'll figure out on this episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll figure it out. We'll see how it goes. Pretty excited. I mean, this is the team that's going to make some moves that gets me very excited. So, yeah, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. I mean, as you can see, he's rocking it looks like a Christmas edition hat of the Indianapolis Colts. We got your Colts fan, Derek Larger.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yes,
No problem,
sir.
man.
How you doing today, man? How's it going, boss?
Oh, man. It's going pretty good. I'm trying to wrap in all this Colts news that's going on. There's rumors going around and, we're trying to get news out of any kind of information we can out of our GM and our head coach right now on, specifically how they're going to attack this free agency and this draft going forward. So there's a lot to talk about with this team at the moment.
Yeah, man, I bet it's really exciting. Seeing, teams making moves, and especially when I know I was in it last year and I'm in it this year now, when your team changes over, maybe quarterbacks, it gets really interested and it gets really exciting. Duran, you can't really relate to that because Dax, he's a staple. And
We're locked in.
Yeah, you're locked in. You're going all out.
Whether we like it or not. I love it.
And that's a good thing, though. You know what I mean? You found your quarterback. You found your team. Gives yourself an identity. And honestly, he seems like a great dude as well. And looks like over your right shoulder, Derek. Is that Ohio State?
Yeah, that is a Zach Boren poster, flattening Gardner from, I believe it was, 2012 or 2013 when that happened. So I very much like that poster. I am an Ohio State guy myself. So
OH.
IO.
Hell yeah. I was seeing if I was going to get one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, yeah, man, we brought you on to, get your story out there. We want to know about you as a fan of the Indianapolis Colts. Before we get started, can you let everybody know where they can find you and any type of work that you're working on at the moment? Give yourself, hype yourself up a little bit. Be your spokesman.
I appreciate it. Well, I mean, for anyone that wants to follow us, I have a Indianapolis Colts podcast on YouTube with my buddy Cody. It's called Bring the Juice Colts Podcast, currently on YouTube right now. We mainly just focus on anything and everything Colts. We break down rumors, we break down analysis of games. Obviously, we're going into the free agency period coming up, so we're going to have a ton of content related to that. I mean, we've probably posted about 10 videos in the last 2 days in regards to everything that's going on. So you guys can follow us there, and you can follow me on Twitter at Derek_Larger. It's mainly where I spend most of my time. If it's not YouTube, I'm mainly on Twitter.
Hell yeah, man. Twitter can be toxic, man. You got to be careful. You can find
you have no idea.
Man. You find yourself in a rabbit hole and you're just in it. You got to watch out for the bait too, clickbait. But yeah, man. So let's get this started properly. Shout out to 3 Disciples right there.
3 Disciples. I got Fog Belt.
Size. Fog Belt. There you go. 2 Sonoma County staples right now for breweries. All right. So first things first, how did it all start? How did you start bleeding that Indy blue?
Well, I I mean, it really kind of just started when I was a kid. My dad was a huge fan of Peyton Manning when he got into the league. My dad really wasn't much of an Indianapolis Colts fan, but he really loved Peyton Manning. And so, that was kind of how it went for us. I lived in an area where I didn't get a ton of Colts games every year unless we got a random bug in the CBS system where we were able to watch them on a Sunday afternoon. That was also back when, they played a lot more Indianapolis Colts games on Sunday afternoons because of Peyton Manning and a bunch of other reasons. I mean, they played them a lot more often, but I was 10 when the Colts won that Super Bowl that I first remember. It really just kind of picked up from there. I just kind of followed the fandom of Peyton. And then when they won their first Super Bowl, I just knew this is the team that I wanted to follow for, pretty much the rest of my life at this point. And, it's been fun to watch this team ever since then.
Nice. There you go.
Where'd you grow up?
A little town called Sydney, Ohio. I still live here now, actually. I've had a lot of people say, you should move to Indianapolis. You got an Indianapolis podcast. Why don't you? And especially since a ton of people that I know, both in the content world and friends that I've gained over the last few years doing this, they all live in Indiana. So that might be the next move for me going forward.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, man. To be closer to the team. One thing I know Duran felt this when we were younger, being a Dallas Cowboys fan, they weren't always on prime time as they are as much now, but sometimes you had to catch on the radio, read it in the newspaper, or follow like on Yahoo Sports. How did you follow the team when they weren't on TV?
It was mainly just watching from, what it is now. I mean, just simple TV was how I always listened to it. And then, sometimes I started figuring out how to stream games, and obviously when social media came around, I always got invested into that. Anything and everything I could get my hands on. It's kind of odd just thinking about it now because, I was a fan of that team growing up, but I never was fully invested into it the way I am now. Like nowadays, I can't escape the knowledge. Back then, I don't even know how I even got a hold of some of the stuff I remember. But I used to go to a lot of games back in the day because that was, when my parents liked to be able to take us. I went to a couple games right before Manning retired or basically went to the Broncos. Awesome. And, I got to go to a couple games when Andrew Luck was there. And, I was able to do stuff like that. And then now I'm a season ticket holder, so I'm able to go to all the home games. So, it's been fun to be able to go from just occasionally watching them and trying to stay up to date with stuff on TV to now like being fully invested in what this team's doing.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. It's always nice to meet a season ticket holder, man. That's great.
Oh, what are the perks? Do you get any special tickets, any swag, anything when you're in the stadium?
Definitely the discounts. I think it's 10% in the store on everything, 20% online. So, I got a few things from that. And, obviously when you pick season tickets, get to pick the seat in whatever section that you want to. The section that Cody and I picked out, it's really freaking nice. It's like mid-level and it's on the side. So, it's not the most spectacular seats, but it was something that we could definitely get behind. And, it got our name out there when it came to, we actually had a guy who was selling, who was part of the ticketing department, reach out to us specifically to ask us if we wanted to do that. Cause Cody and I had never even thought about doing that, but he reached out to us about the potential idea. And I'm like, it's something I didn't know if I'd be able to do, but I'm glad I did it last year and I'm glad to do it again this year.
Nice. So how long's the drive from where you live to?
It's a little over 2 hours.
Oh, that's not bad.
2 hours. It's not terrible. I mean, it's definitely not something I want to do every weekend. Sometimes I like to make sure I'm in my place to make sure I'm streaming the games when they happen. But, it is nice to every now and again go to a home game and be able to enjoy that.
Yeah. And I think those are the best seats. I always pick first row on the second deck. I don't like that view, like the field level view. I kind of like the TV view where you're up a little bit high. You could see the whole field. You could see first downs, things like that. So I think that's the best seats.
Absolutely.
If we were to come visit, I don't know how many games you've been to at this point, but what should we do for parking? Where should we go to eat? Are there any bars around?
Oh man, Indianapolis, there is a ton of great places to eat. I mean, I've been to, I can't even remember the actual pub that I've gone to the last few times I was there, but there's a pub that I go to almost every time I go into Indianapolis on game day. You know, I get their chicken is amazing. They got some great burgers, great beer there, and it's all for a pretty good price. And it's only about half a mile from the stadium. So, and really there's not a bad place to really park and near Lucas Oil. I mean, I think I took my mother one time last season and we parked a block from the stadium and it was like $20, which is crazy because I think it was the only lot in that area that had the $20. The rest of them were 30 or 40, but you know, we were able to find the lucky one there. But you know, there's parking within half a mile easy and some of it's $10 to $20. So it's not a very hard, it's not hard to find parking there. But there is a lot of great restaurants and bars there.
That's a great deal. I hear a lot of people talking about the restaurants and bars actually forever from the combine, all the coaches and stuff renting out rooms and being around that area.
Yeah, St. Elmo, they always bring that up every time that they go, that the Indianapolis gets the combine. They always say it. Anyone that comes in that's not been to there before, highly encourage you go to St. Elmo's. It's pricey, but believe me, the food there is like, it's top notch. I mean, it's some of the best food you'll ever have in a restaurant. I guarantee it.
Nice.
So I'm just curious, your first memorabilia that you owned, whether it was a jersey, hat, t-shirt, jersey, what was it?
Let me think. I think the first real merchandise that I ever had that I can remember was actually an Anthony Gonzalez jersey.
Oh, nice.
He was a former Ohio State guy, and he went to Indianapolis. And of course, me being a Buckeye guy that I am, I loved that, even though Gonzalez never really did a whole lot with Indianapolis in his short tenure, you know, had a bunch of injuries and that didn't really last long. But I think that was the first one that I can remember specifically of any kind of merch that my parents got me when I was younger, because that was one of the first things I ever asked for.
Nice. That's a good one. That's a deep dive.
He's still a congressman in Ohio State, in Ohio, right?
Yeah, he is now. Yeah, he definitely is.
Good for him. So what's your game day setup looking like? Are you a live tweeter? Do you go to a bar? Do you hang out with a couple of your friends, a certain friend?
Well, I definitely am not a live tweeter. I can't fathom myself to do it. For one, ironically enough, on game days, I never look at Twitter when it's game day, ever. I never look at it unless it's after the game, because I can't stand a lot of Colts Nation's reactions to what things are going down in the game. It's either extremely high, like the greatest thing that's ever happened, or it's, I mean, why are we even watching this? Right. Yep. It's like, there's no in-between factor in that. And I can't stand it. And a lot of times when I'm live streaming games, this is my normal setup. I just am streaming down here in the basement. I am just got my whole setup here. I have a couple buddies that help me with pregame stuff. And, you know, I spend Sunday morning and sometimes Saturday evenings setting up the streams for how I want it to look next time. This next season, I'm trying to start working on using a different editing software so where I can make it look better for when those things happen. But yeah, for the most part on game days to stream games, you know, I'm usually here by myself, but I will be constantly talking with Cody, who's my co-host, and a couple other people in the Colts podcasting content creating group that will help me out through the whole process.
And nice. a lot of planning going into that, man. I like it though. It shows your dedication.
Gee, I got one more question. You got anything else?
Yeah,
this section.
I'm actually curious just because you said one of your first games you got to see Peyton Manning and you also got to experience Andrew Luck. Which one did you feel more attached to as far as like that's my quarterback? I know like they're two, great quarterbacks. Obviously, one lasted longer, more success, and one wasn't. Obviously had to retire early because of the O-line. But I'm just curious, which one did you feel more attached to?
It's got to be Andrew Luck. The older I got, like I said, the older I got, the more attached I got to the team. And as I got older, I started understanding what was going on behind the scenes with Peyton Manning, and then realizing that Andrew Luck, when he got here, was supposed to be the guy. And I mean, he put this team on his back for so many years and got no support. And then I think the video is still up on my Twitter. The night he retired, I said it that was like the second worst night of my life, because I was so I couldn't fathom what I was hearing, because that off season we were saying this is the team, this is the one that was supposed to take us to the Super Bowl, because we went to the AFC divisional game. Yes, we lost a bad one to Kansas City, but we thought Andrew Luck, a full offseason to work on what he wanted to, improving on that roster, getting some guys in there and improving upon what we had seen. And then just to see all of that just go away, and that was rough, and to this day, I still have to turn my head sometimes when I see people say that Andrew Luck gave up on this team. I hate when people use that argument, because I mean, if I had a lacerated kidney, several broken ribs, a punctured lung, 2 concussions, and a lacerated shoulder, I probably would not enjoy my job either. So that's one of the things. I mean, I got to follow Andrew Luck's story much more from knowing him in college and then to, where he became in the NFL. I grew onto that story more. Yeah. And that was the year that I started the podcast with Cody. It was when, we started getting involved in that. And then that was the off season that Andrew Luck called it quits. So, there's a certain emotional attachment to that story more than Peyton.
Yeah. I bet that's an awesome answer. I was just curious because, I mean, to have those two quarterbacks, it's kind of like myself when it's like I don't remember Joe Montana. I do remember more Steve Young. So when it comes to those two, I'm obviously going to choose Steve Young. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like Duran here, it's Troy Aikman or Tony Romo. Like I know you've seen more Tony Romo, but I don't know who you would choose. But so that's why I asked for sure.
Yep. I got one last question for this section, and it is who's your guys' number one rival? Who do you consider?
Jaguars?
I'd say right now it's probably the Tennessee Titans at this point, because because the division has now become between the Colts and the Titans every year at this point. The Titans are a very well-coached team. They're a great team. With some pieces they still need to get to where they want to be. And the Colts, well-coached team, they just need some more pieces to figure it out. And, we have beaten Tennessee several times. I mean, I remember Andrew Luck as a starting quarterback. Andrew Luck never lost a game against the Tennessee Titans, played all those years, went 12-0 against Tennessee, never lost a game against them. It always humbled Tennessee Titans fans greatly. And now Andrew Luck's out of the building, and we haven't been able to beat them a lot over the last few years. They've been, winning the division ever since he left. So it's been a constant back and forth battle for who's going to take the division. And obviously Tennessee Titans fans now feel some moral high ground because, they're getting a better record than the Colts. They feel Derrick Henry's the best running back in the league. So they always like to shove that down our throats, even though I don't agree on that. I think Jonathan Taylor's better, but that could be a discussion for another day. But so I definitely think it's the Titans right now. I would say that the Raiders is probably a close contention too, because it's gone back and forth with the Raiders and the Colts over the last 5 years. We lose, we win. We lose, we win. So it's been good to see that one. I hope that the Colts continue to keep playing the Raiders because I think it makes for a great rivalry for that side too.
Okay. Yeah, the Raiders, I didn't expect that. That's a good one. I mean, I know it was a must win between the Raiders one and also the Jaguars one. Unfortunately, you guys lost both.
Yes.
But, that's pretty interesting right there. I know, for a long time it was the Colts and the Texans, and the Titans came up when an Ohio State guy and Vrabel came in to the coaching realm, and he knocked it out of the park with that. He turned that team around for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next we want to guess your favorite player in Colts history. I got a list of a couple guys. G, you're more than welcome to take a shot first.
Yeah, I feel like we got to, create a soundboard. So it's like, guess your favorite player.
I actually have a soundboard right here in front of me. I still have to work on this thing a little more.
I love soundboards.
Yeah, we gotta get one. Yeah, man, there's a couple. I mean, I can go with like the crowd favorite and Pat McAfee, but I'm actually gonna go with I think he's very, very humble. I thought he was a staple in your guys' defense, so I'm gonna go with Robert Mathis.
Nice. I think just from the history, he said he loved Peyton Manning, and that's why he became a fan. I got to go with Peyton.
Well, I mean, I can definitely say that the closest one is Robert Mathis because it's on the defensive side, but that's not quite it. Ironically enough, my favorite, man, there are a couple of them way back in the day that I gravitated to a lot. Another name is Dwight Freeney, but that's actually not the one that made
vicious spin move
the defense. It was actually the hitman Bob Sanders.
Oh, nice.
That got me into Colts football so much more because, I mean, he is the literal epitome of just a small stud that hurt himself playing the game the way he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is he hurt himself because he played the game too hard. Every hit he made, it had to be a finisher. And, I mean, that's where you get the hitman nickname from. And everybody loved him for that. But, career got cut short because, just too many freaking injuries, but that was always fun. I think that might be the first highlight tape I've ever watched of a Colts player was Bob Sanders just absolutely demolishing people. And, he was smaller than me. I mean, which is crazy to think about. He was smaller than me, but yet he would tackle dudes in ways that I could only ever dream of.
Yeah, I know they lie about the height when it comes to it. And they say that he was 5'8". So I want to say he was around 5'7", 5'6". I know he was in
certainly wasn't very tall, that's for sure.
Iowa boy. I know that. I know he went to Iowa. I loved watching this guy play. Because like you said, he just go all out every single play. I'm pretty sure he would get fined in today's league.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. He's kind of what Darius Leonard is for this Colts defense now. He brings that energy. It was contagious. Whenever he was on the field, you just felt his presence every time he was out there.
He wasn't really like a loud vocal leader type of guy. He seemed like he just, hey, I'm going to lead by example. Kind of like Bethea did for you guys.
Yes.
But a little bit more violent than Bethea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I think of it as Bethea and Sanders were kind of the Chancellor Thomas of the Legion of Boom, just if you flipped them. Right. Because Bob Sanders was more the free safety and Bethea was more the strong safety to start out. But Bethea was, the guy that made those big plays when you didn't expect them. But Bob made the big ones that made you go, wow. I mean, holy cow. So, yeah, that was fun to watch him.
Yeah, he was defensive player of the year in 2007. Every year he played 7 games or more. He was an all-pro. But unfortunately, that was only 2 years.
Yeah,
he had 6 out of 8 years were 6 games or less. But I definitely remember Bob Sanders. He's one of those guys where if health was on his side, he'd be known as one of the greats.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's in the Colts Ring of Honor, so
he deserves to be.
He deserved to be in there.
Yep.
I mean, that year where they did win the Super Bowl. I mean, he was a big reason for that. Like you said, it was one of the few seasons that he played almost an entire season and, won defensive player of the game in the Super Bowl as well. Had a huge interception at the end of the game to seal it. So, I mean, what can you say? I mean, Bob Sanders, you only wish that you could have seen him play just a little bit more.
Yep. I know you mentioned some of those guys that were a little bit less known. Are there any guys that you kind of want to give some love that maybe some Colts non-fans might not know?
Yeah, the underrated superstars. Who are they?
I think a name that I mentioned Dwight Freeney. I kind of talk about some of those guys, but I think someone on the offense that everyone seems to forget, right? There's we all remember the Peyton Manning days where they had Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James, right? They had all these guys. But I think there's another name that gets tossed around that people forget, and that's Dallas Clark.
Oh, okay.
And everyone knows Dallas Clark.
Yeah,
but they
another Iowa boy.
Mention him when it's amongst the team that was so great, right? Because I talk about it nowadays. I think tight end in today's NFL is one of the most important positions in the NFL, especially when you want an offense that knows how to run something. You need a good tight end. And Dallas Clark, he was always the guy that never got game planned for, because you had to game plan for Marvin Harrison. You had to game plan for Reggie Wayne in the red zone. You had to learn to stop the run on Edgerrin James, and you just forgot about Dallas Clark. Dallas Clark's a top 10 tight end that's ever played this game. But every time somebody mentions the Peyton Manning era, he's usually one of the last guys you ever mention.
Yep. Even when you were going through the list of guys, I thought you were going to say maybe Joseph Adai or a Donald Brown. And even I forgot about him right there. But yeah, of course, Dallas Clark, the gloveless legend.
Yeah. Man. Dallas Clark.
One of the last few tight ends that didn't use gloves to catch the football.
Yeah. He went no gloves. And I remember someone said that his nickname was like Crazy Legs or something like that. He, I know he went to Iowa. I remember him even playing for the Ravens, which is super weird to see him in the Ravens uniform, but he was still balling out. He was still that safety blanket, and like not really, Peyton Manning, he can make anybody look, great. He kind of made, T.Y. towards the end of his career look good. Pierre Garçon look good as well. But man, him and Dallas Clark, they just had that blue collar mentality, and they feel like they meshed well. I felt like it was him, Saturday, and Peyton were just blue collar dudes.
Which is kind of hilarious because certain football pages love to bring up the one time that we saw Peyton Manning lose his cool, and it was on Jeff Saturday. I think a lot of people remember that clip, right? Of Saturday.
I love that clip.
Manning
I love
cursing each other out. It's one of the few guys that ever had the respect from Peyton Manning enough to be able to stand up to him. And at the end of the day, they were still cool, right? Because they were both just competitive guys. And
gotta love that.
And Saturday, even though he didn't finish his career in the NFL with the Colts and Peyton Manning, he did get a chance to do one last snap with Peyton Manning in the Pro Bowl many years before that. So, Saturday's another one, one of those guys that, Colts fans know him, but a lot of people forget he was the lineman on that offensive line when it came to how everything got set up. And Saturday was a legend for sure.
Yeah, definitely was. He was just, how do I say this without saying, he was boring. But he wasn't really like, it's like because you get some of these lines like Quentin Nelson, he's not boring to watch. Like he's going to maul you.
Oh yeah.
It's like, just like Thomas for the Browns, he was just boring, just step back, boom. You're not going to just stonewall you. Same with Saturday.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like he just so technical. He knew his role, and except on the sidelines, like you said, in that NFL films, I love that. I love that though. And you kind of see that with the Hard Knocks episode with Quentin Nelson. Say, hey, we're going to run the ball. I talked to JT. He said, let's run the ball. We're running the ball. And it reminded me of that. So he's like, man, we need to run the ball more. And he goes, hey, you shut up, Jeff. You just snap the ball.
Yeah, just snap it. Let me call the plays. All right. Yeah. Quentin is Quentin is debatably, I think, my favorite Colt on this current
yeah.
team. Maybe
That was
I
my
think it
next
might
question.
be Darius Leonard a little
Yeah.
more, but Quentin Nelson. I mean, I was an offensive lineman growing up, and I love playing in the trenches. So when I see a guy in the trenches making headways, I mean, Quentin Nelson has made being an offensive lineman cool. I mean, people have now, like, how many other guys have a highlight tape of them mauling people, on the offensive line? Like, you just don't see that. You didn't see it before Quentin Nelson came along, and now you get a few people that do that because Quentin Nelson's made a habit of doing it. And he does it in such a nice way too, a lot of times. I mean, what was it? The Texans game this last year, he just pancaked that linebacker's like, "You good?" It's like, "Yes, sir. All right, pick him up. Let's go back to the same play." It's like, that's the most polite pancake I've ever seen in my life, but okay.
You can't say anything because it's not dirty and it's between the whistles. So take your ass whooping and that's it.
Yep, that's it.
It's just like like two guys duke it out in the ring and like shake hands after, like the winner. But it's cool. Because I like that you said that he's making linemen kind of cool again, because like I remember like when a lineman was drafted in the first round, that's not considered offensive lineman. I mean, it's not considered sexy. It's not considered cool. I always liked it because like I always remember there was a year, I hate to always bring it back to the Niners, but I remember there was a year we drafted 2 linemen in the first round, Mike Ayupati and Anthony Davis, and I loved it because I wanted to get that line stacked up. And I remember we drafted McGlinchey the same year you guys drafted Quentin Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that line I remember watching McGlinchey because I know we needed a tackle. I remember watching McGlinchey at Notre Dame. Then I just kept on like, okay, forget McGlinchey, dude. Look at this guy, Quentin Nelson. Jesus, like he is just a beast. Straight mauler. Like he was so mean. He had the eye black rolling around and all going around. But like you talk to me, just like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like he'll shoot the shit with you, but at the same time, like he's gonna take your lunch.
Yeah, you stand in front of him, there's no mercy. And hey, I mean, the Cowboys know a thing or two about building in the trenches.
Oh, yeah.
The offensive line. How many freaking years did they spend, Jerry Jones spend those first and second round picks investing in offensive line to get to where it was just a few short years ago? I mean, that was widely considered the best offensive line with Zach Martin and Tyron Smith and all those boys up there. I mean, that was a freaking piece of it.
Underrated Fredrickson. Yeah.
Yep.
Underrated.
And then they lucked out with Lyle Collins. He chose to go there.
Yeah.
Through the draft debacle that went down. Yeah.
Well, and ironically enough, I mean, the Colts fan base has been talking about trading Quentin Nelson. Because Ballard went on 1075 The Fan today and was just actually yesterday was talking at the combine and said that he expects Quentin Nelson to get anywhere from $17 to $20 million a year on his big contract when he gets one. And we've kind of been asking the question to Colts Nation, like, do you agree with giving a guard that much money? And, I think if you had asked them 2 years ago, I think 85% of them would have said yes. But right now, it's really only about 60-40. The Colts fan base is like, I'd be giving that to a left tackle, but I would not be giving that to a left guard. And, it's kind of turned a lot of the Colts Nation against each other, saying like, you can't give, I don't care how great Quentin Nelson is, you can't give him $17 to $20 million when you have other needs on the field. I mean, I get that argument. I get that there's some things that you need to change, but I mean, we got to remind ourselves, Quentin Nelson came in 2018 and we were the worst offensive line the year prior. Quentin Nelson and Braden Smith came in. We immediately became the second best offensive line in everything. And why was that? Because Quentin Nelson changed the dynamic of how that offensive line plays. Before they were soft. This time, you stand next to Quentin Nelson, he is not letting you be soft. He is going to make sure you know about it, and he's going to show you how physically dominating he is, and that's how it changed the dynamic of how we block now. So, is that worth $17 million a year?
I think it definitely. I think it's it's bad for the team if you're like, okay, you became the best player at your position, but we're not going to pay you. It's like, pay the man. He's the best at his position. He deserves it, and your team will be better off in the long run. That's how I feel.
Now,
what do you think? Yeah.
Now at this, like when it comes to it, like you're going to pay him like what, 16, 17 a mil a year, but that's like for what, like 4 or 5 years. But what if like you gave him like, a signing bonus up front and you give him like 6 years, or 7 years?
Probably what Ballard would do. He likes to front load contracts. He did the same thing with DeForest Buckner when we traded for him. They front loaded the contract so that when they went later on, like what we're doing now is we're able to change some numbers up. I mean, that's probably what he'll do with Quentin Nelson. He likes to front load it, likes to pay all the most of the money up front and quicker. And then that way on the back years, he can mess around with the budget a little more.
There you go.
I feel like he got a lot better when DeForest Buckner came over as well. I mean, because you're going against an all-pro defensive, tackle that's 6'9", 6'8".
Iron
6'7"
sharpens
at
iron.
least, and 300 pounds. And
I'll
just say this. Our defensive line ain't great right now. But I'll just say this. If it wasn't for DeForest Buckner, our defensive line would be completely irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that. But DeForest Buckner, as great as he is, he can't do it all by himself.
No.
And that's kind of what he's doing right now in Indianapolis. I've been saying after this whole quarterback controversy crap keeps going on, after it gets finished, the Colts need to get an edge rusher. Like, it needs to be immediate because DeForest Buckner, when he's out there, 85% of the time is getting double teamed or triple teamed, and he is unable to make any kind of major impact consistently because he is just getting dominated by these double teams. And, it'd be different if you can get a guy on the edge that maybe takes some of the focus away a few times per game, and that allows DeForest Buckner to become face more single man protection, then DeForest Buckner can make a few more plays. Or even then, even if DeForest Buckner still gets double teamed the majority of the time, at least you have an edge rusher on the outside who's now getting that single man protection, and you have someone that can now get more consistent pressure. Because, the Colts defensive line right now has been bad. It's been bad for quite some time. It got better when DeForest Buckner got here, but it's still really bad right now.
Yeah.
Let's move on a little bit, G.
Yeah, let's kick it down the road real quick. So I'm just curious. We want to know your favorite Colts moment. Like, was it the Super Bowl? Was it, a certain, memory you shared with your family, your pops? What was it?
Oh man, so many great ones. It's hard to put a price on it because I do remember the Super Bowl. I don't remember a whole lot of it because I was only 10 years old, but I do remember that was probably the first and only time I ever got to stay up late because it was the freaking Super Bowl. So my parents let me stay up and watch it. We had a party. It was having a great time. But I think the one that always comes back to mind right away is when Andrew Luck was on the Colts and they won that game against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs in the divisional round. Ironically enough, I was watching that game. Colts were getting blown out in the first half. And I left. 10. I left and went to I was in high school at the time. So I went to my high school girls basketball game to watch because I was like, oh, the Colts are done. I'm not dealing with this. And so in the middle of the high school basketball game, I'm there with a couple of friends of mine, and I just get a random text, and it's from my dad, and he said, the Colts won. I said, you're lying. Quit doing that to me. I'm not in the mood. It's like, no, check ESPN. And so I check ESPN, 45-44 Colts. I'm like, are you kidding me? I dropped everything. I rushed home, and my parents had it on DVR. So I went back home and I rewatched the second half and watched that whole thing. And then I kid you not, I rewatched that game, that second half, 2 more times before I went to bed that night. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, I'm going to rewatch this as many times as I can until I figure out how the hell the Colts found a way to come back in this game. I was amazed that was the second greatest comeback in the history of the NFL, and I freaking missed it.
Yep. I don't blame you for leaving. Like I said, they're down 38-10. And then I'm sure, especially if anyone's listening to this, they know the classic Andrew Luck play where Donald Brown fumbles, he picks it up, dives into the end zone. And that was the turning point. That was the turning point that made the game what it was. And then, of course, they end up winning 45-44. T.Y. Hilton had a game. 13 receptions, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I'm guessing 200 of those 224 were in the second half.
Probably.
Yeah,
man, that's always a great feeling to say, and especially it's so funny you guys bring up Donald Brown because what was he, UConn, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
UConn.
I mean,
UConn.
I feel like he was a later round pick, just those stars that came out the show just show out in the second half. But man, it's just another, headstrong Andrew Luck. You know what I mean? I know he was getting beaten up that game for sure. And, to stick with it, his style of play. I mean, I've seen it being on the West Coast, I've seen it so many times with him at Stanford. Even when somebody fumbled it, he comes over and makes a stick. He puts his head out there. He's just, man, like he's like a Bob Sanders, man. He's careless with his body, even when
he was a linebacker and a quarterback at the quarterback position.
Yes. Oh my God.
I think he was Cam Newton size. I'm pretty sure they had the same height and weight.
6'4", 225 pounds. I mean, he was not.
Cam might have been a little bit bigger, but yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
He was stout.
A couple other memories I want to bring up. Do you remember the Peyton Manning versus Ryan Leaf draft?
No, I don't remember that. That's a little past my prime there.
Okay. Well, another one I wanted to bring up is 2018, that draft class, Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard in the same draft. Did you expect this from Darius Leonard? Because I was scouting linebackers that year, and I actually had him pretty low on my list of linebackers. I don't know what it was. I can go back and look at it, but he wasn't one of the top guys. And then his rookie year, he comes out and immediately establishes himself as one of the top linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because he was on Twitter earlier today talking about, talking to the guys at the combine saying, if you're injured, don't even bother trying to go to the combine, because he said, just look at my numbers. Look at where I was. Look at where I was ranked with athletic wise. I was one of the worst linebacker prospects of all time compared to some people. And, look at where he is now. And I think that's why I think Cody and I had that discussion 2 off seasons ago, asking who was the better draft pick, Quentin Nelson or Darius Leonard. That 2018 draft class by Chris Ballard was just amazing. That might be the greatest draft class that we have ever seen when you look at it from star power to what these contributors are. Darius Leonard, nobody could have foreseen this coming. Yeah. Nobody could have foreseen this coming. I mean, I kind of figured the first play of training camp when he picked off Andrew Luck, I was thinking, oh man, we got something kind of special here. Maybe. And, goes out in that next year and leads the league in tackles. I mean, it's just insane what he's been able to do statistically from that kind of standpoint. I don't think there's, other than maybe Ray Lewis, I don't think there is any linebacker to start off his career statistically better than Darius Leonard has in his first 4 years in this league. I mean, it's only going to go up from here. He's still young, and I mean, he's only going to get better. And with Gus Bradley's system that they're going to implement, I mean, I could not have foreseen this coming from Darius Leonard, but he is a stud.
Yep. Just to
I
review,
can think of a linebacker, but that's another talk.
We got a pretty good one too. We all got some good linebackers out there.
Patrick Willis, but okay. So I'm just
that win.
Ironic. He was actually one of my favorite.
That win. Oh my God.
Coming up. I loved Patrick Willis, and especially in the Madden games, if I ever played with the 49ers, I love to hit stick with Patrick Willis. I mean, it was just such a cheat code back then. I love Patrick Willis.
If you're a football fan, you love Patrick Willis just
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
he's a great player and he's super humble and just went out there and balled every week. So you got to love Patrick Willis if you just like football.
Like even in person, I remember walking by, I was like, "Oh my God, Patrick Willis!" He's like, "Hey man, you want a picture?" I was like,
Nice.
he's like getting ready to eat. I was like, "Oh, it's okay." Like,
not many people, and that's the funny thing. Not many athletes
big ass neck
invite you over to take a picture when you notice them. You know? So when you get someone that does that, you know that they're a humble guy.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a Jeff Saturday move. If you recognize Jeff Saturday in public, like he knows you're a fan. You're not just walking by Jeff Saturday and be like, "Hey, you know, you must be a football player." It's like you know who he is.
Jesus.
Moving on a little bit, with all the great memories comes some bad memories. We want to know your worst memory being a Colts fan, whether it be a player getting cut, injured, leaving, or a loss, a playoff loss, anything like that.
Well, I go back to the Andrew Luck thing. I had such a bad night. And even going into the morning, we didn't make a podcast that night because obviously the emotions were so high. But the next morning, we had one of our friends on as well, and we did like a 45-minute podcast, just all three of us almost on the brink of tears, you know, talking about this and how upset we were that was going to happen like that.
Are you're talking about the Schefter bomb tweet when he?
Yeah, I still to this day don't forgive Schefter, and I hate him.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate him. I don't think that will ever. Obviously, if I ever met him in person, I'd be respectful to him, but I'll always have to discuss for Adam Schefter and the way I get that he felt like he was doing his job, but Andrew Luck wanted to go out on his own terms and not make it about himself while the team was having a game in the process of that. And he didn't want to make it about him, but that night immediately turned into all about Andrew Luck. And he didn't want that. He wanted to go on his own. But I think the only, what was the only other bad memory? I think the only other bad memory that I can recall that makes me like still stick to my stomach to this day. So when the Colts went to the Super Bowl in, 2009, it was the second time that the Colts went with Peyton Manning in that short span of time. The Saints went.
Yep,
that was during the Bounty Gate and everything that was going on.
Yeah.
So Brett Favre was on Minnesota, right? And my aunt and uncle are ginormous Brett Favre fans. Okay, they love it. And so they said, and my aunt was dead serious when she told me this. She said, if Minnesota makes it to the Super Bowl, we are buying tickets to go to the Super Bowl. And sure enough, Brett Favre, their idol, fucked it over, and I didn't get to go to the Super Bowl that night. And I was so pissed, dude. My 13-year-old me was so mad. I forever hate Brett Favre for ruining my chances to go. Thankfully enough, 4 years ago, I got to go to the Super Bowl. I actually got to work it, which was an amazing experience. I even got to watch the game, and that was the Eagles and the Patriots one.
Okay.
I was wondering. So, yeah, I went to work that one, but I was like, that might have been that time I was thinking that might have been the only opportunity I get to go to a Super Bowl, and Brett Favre fucked it up. Yep. I was so mad.
That's so funny. You were leading up to it. I thought you were going to say either like the onside kick, the Tracy Porter interception.
No, not even the Tracy Porter thing. I was mad, obviously, but I was more mad at the fact that I wasn't personally there to witness heartbreak. That's all I was. I was more mad at that. So,
hey, you could have been the good luck charm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I know you brought up the Andrew Luck retirement. I just want to bring it back to Peyton Manning. There's two things that I have here that I think might cut a little deep, but I got to bring them up. Peyton Manning, when he actually ended up getting cut and going to Denver. And then the second one is Peyton Manning when he hurt his neck. It was actually a pretty dirty hit that he got smacked on. I forget who the player was. I could look it up right now, but I want to know if one of those kind of stands out more than the other.
Definitely the retirement, or not the retirement, the cutting of Peyton Manning, just him not being a Colt anymore. You know, it felt so surreal because we thought, you know, Peyton would probably come back, but you know, the Colts thought, I mean, at that time, that you're right, that was a severe neck injury, and nobody really thought he would come back to being the Peyton Manning that they knew, right? They were like, he might play football again, but he may not be, you know, the quarterback that they would want for the future. And you can't rely on him to be fully healthy or take a chance on that. So you want to move in a different direction. I know that pissed a lot of Colts fans off for a while, but I think it was the right decision to move forward and to allow Peyton to have a chance to do something. And, you know, I mean, that hurt. And that obviously is something that I'll remember. But I love what he did with Denver. You know, I'm so glad that, you know, he got to finish his career the way that he wanted and the way that he deserved to finish it. And I mean, I just love it. And, you know, I always like to make the statement that he is forever a Colt. I don't care what Broncos fans want to mention it. He won a Super Bowl with us first. He is the reason that Indianapolis football is the way it is. This fan base loves him more than you do. I promise you that. And you will never take Peyton Manning out of Indianapolis. I don't care what you say. He is forever a Colt.
Yep. I feel like Dallas was in the same position with DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus Ware is playing defense. He balled out the whole time he was a Cowboy, never got a Super Bowl. And then, of course, went to Denver. Peyton Manning was the quarterback, and every Dallas Cowboys fan was rooting for DeMarcus Ware to win because he's such a stand-up, classy guy. And just like you said, he'll always be a Cowboy. And there's not one Denver Bronco fan that loves him more than a Dallas Cowboys fan does.
Yeah, I mean, even, you know, Irsay, he still lets him borrow like the private jet when he needs to. And, you know, that's so awesome. You know, I feel like he's a staple there in Indianapolis. I mean, he probably has a steak named after him at St. Elmo's. I can't wait to try it out. You know what I mean? Like, I turned to find out, like, oh, yeah, he's vegan. So it's good. But, you know, just definitely interesting, you know, to see that happen. But always such a good thing to, you know, to kind of root for the guy, you know, that used to be, that you cheered for so long. Like I'm always going to be rooting for DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner was one of my favorite 49ers. He was an Iron Man, like you said. Like he plays so many snaps, and he doesn't want to come out the field. Like they try to take him off. He's like, no, you know, fuck it.
It was that way in the Tampa Bay game. Believe it or not, we thought he went down and he was grabbing his knee, and I was like, oh no, like that's it. That's our chances right there. Losing him on that D line would have been the absolute worst thing in the world. Sure enough, came back like 2 series later, even though the doctor said that he should probably rest it. He said, no, I'm going back out there. So gotta love the freaking guy. I mean,
he's such a humble giant.
Sure.
I remember I went to a 49ers training camp. I walked past him and Sheldon Day. He's towering over Sheldon Day, and I'm just sitting there looking up at him like, what is up, my guy? He's like, hey, shorty, just gonna go eat lunch later. I'm like, oh, all right. And I just kept on walking. I'm like, oh my God, that guy's huge.
Just hard to believe a man can be 6'7", 300 pounds and be as athletic as they are. It's just weird to think
just
about.
Unfair.
Yeah, it is very unfair. With me over here at 5'10", 250 pounds, and I can't even move a fraction of the way those guys do.
I weigh as much as they do, but I'm not as tall.
Yeah, that weight don't matter. As long as you weigh 6'6". That's all that matters to them.
Yeah. So let's move on to some brighter days. G, we're gonna move on to your future expectations. We know we got the NFL draft coming up. We got a couple question marks coming up for the Colts as well. I mean, you guys don't have a first round pick, which kind of pisses me off because it's going to Philly, who I hate Philly, and they're just stacked up with all this first round talent. But you guys do have 2 picks inside the top 100, one at number 47, one at 82. Is there a direction? I know we haven't hit free agency yet, but is there a direction in the draft that you would like to go?
Me personally, with that second round pick, I would like to draft a wide receiver. I think that the top 12 wide receivers in this draft class are very stacked. I think that there's some really good players.
One you have your eye on in particular?
What's up?
One you have your eye on in particular?
Wan'Dale Robinson. That is the one from
Okay.
Kentucky that I absolutely would love if the Colts got. I mean, yards after catch. I don't think there's a single wide receiver in this draft class that's better in yards after catch than Wan'Dale Robinson. Just the agility and the acceleration of his and the footwork reminds me of Kadarius Toney coming out of Florida. I mean, just the ability to make plays with his feet after he catches the ball in his hand. I mean, it would be insane to get him. I'll be honest, I think he might actually climb up on draft boards. So we may not be able to get a chance on that. And then for another chance, it's kind of tough because I don't want to draft another defensive end. Colts did that twice last year. We still need to see how that works out.
Corner.
Probably either a corner or a backup safety of some kind. That would probably be where I would want to go with. I think the Colts are okay at corner right now, but there's always room to add some competition there. And Ballard does a pretty good job in the third or fourth round of drafting defensive studs. I mean, he drafted Blackman in the third round, for goodness sake. And look at where Blackman is now. I mean, Blackman, this rookie year, just coming off an ACL, 8 months after tearing his ACL, ends up coming out and almost wins defensive rookie of the year if it wasn't for Chase Young getting 15 sacks. So, I mean, I think that that's the direction that the Colts should go into. But then again, I say this every year and I'll say it again. I am not Chris Ballard. I don't understand his game planning a lot of times. And that's why I don't get paid to do it, because he does a very good job of that. So I will just let him do his course.
Is it a breath of fresh air? I mean, I feel like Dallas is a very good drafting team. The Colts are a very good drafting team. It seems like your guys' first round, your second, they're going to hit. They're going to get a starting position. Or do you just have confidence in Ballard that he's going to make the right decision?
A lot of the times, yes. There has been some times where he has missed on some very key positions in the draft. One of those being defensive end. We look at some of the guys that are on there now. Tyquan Lewis hasn't done anything yet. Second round pick. Ben Banigou. He's practically been a non-contributor in the whole thing because he has a work ethic problem. Second round pick. Kamoko Toure, second round pick. Has been getting injured, hasn't seen the field that much. We think he's going to do better in this Gus Bradley defensive scheme that they have. We'll have to see if that works out, but so far it hasn't, so defensive end has just not been a good spot. And also, I mean, the Colts haven't done anything offensively in regards to weapons. I mean, we have Michael Pittman now, but that's really the only receiver / tight end that Ballard is responsible for on this roster that has done anything to make any kind of contribution. We're hoping Paris Campbell's going to be something, but he's always hurt. And that really sucks because I'm a Buckeye guy. I love Paris Campbell. I've met him. I've talked with him. One of the best dudes I've ever met. But I mean, just good Lord, I can't trust him to stay healthy at the moment. I hope he does better. But, the rest of the guys on the group, I mean, this is all Ballard's work. And it's not doing very good right now. If you just look at the receiving stats for the Colts this last year, it's bad. It's really, really bad. And that's on Ballard because Ballard hasn't addressed that position enough.
Yeah, I loved Paris Campbell even coming out. I mean, even this year, I thought he was going to do something. I drafted him on my fantasy team thinking that he would do something. I wanted him to because he was that kind of hybrid pick coming out because he was brought into Ohio State as running back. He made the transition into, Hartline saw something in him. He said that I need you at receiver. And, he, stood out at receiver, taking slants and whatnot to the house because how great he was in speed and whatnot. But yeah, injuries hindered him. A lot of soft tissue injuries, which is
that's not good for that position.
It really freaking sucks, man. And that one that and this year when he got hurt against the Texans, I mean, how much of unluckiness can you possibly get? I mean, the guy lands
might be time for a new
foot.
scenery.
He makes an amazing catch, the biggest play of the season for him, and the guy lands on his foot while he's trying to go into the end zone and then breaks his entire foot. I mean, it's just, God, I hate it so much because a lot of it's not his fault. It's just been unfortunate injuries. But, you know, it gets to a point where how many more of those unfortunate injuries can you continue to try to sustain? You know, you need the best ability is availability. And so far that hasn't been.
Exactly. So you said that you kind of that you're leaning more towards a receiver. A couple of things also with Gus Bradley being your guys' defensive coordinator. So going back to receiver, biased aside, because I know you're an Ohio State guy, in that range where you're picking in the second round, you guys can either get Jameis Williams from Alabama or Chris Olave from Ohio State. Which one would you prefer? I know Williams is coming off an ACL tear, but you saw what he can do ACL, and I think they can come back from that. Or you can get Chris Olave, who's a faster T.Y. Hilton. Actually, no, he has better route running than T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, I've said this several times in my evaluation of Chris Olave. I think that a lot of people underestimate his route running. I have watched every Ohio State game that a Chris Olave has played in.
Him and
there are so many times where I watch Olave catch a ball, and there's not a corner within 5 yards of him. And I know sometimes that's zone protection. I get that. But when it's man-to-man, he puts corners in a freaking blender, dude. And outside of Wan'Dale Robinson, I think Olave is the best yard after catch guy in college football. I know Jamison Williams is, the guy with the burners, right? Of course, everyone knows that he's the burner guy. But I question if Jamison Williams is actually going to be more than that, because teams can work on that. Right. And I mean, John Ross was the same way coming out of college. Exactly. He had the burners, but what about the rest of the game? Jamison Williams is not going to be your guy that, you're on a 3rd and 4 and you need a 5-yard hitch route and he's going to go make that catch. He's sure-handed and he's going to make sure he gets it. I'd rather have John Mechie III, his teammate, do that rather than Jamison Williams. I trust Williams to stretch the field a little bit more than Olave. But I think Olave is a much better product of Ohio State. And I think Jamison Williams, just has more time. He needs to learn a little more before he takes that elite step, right? I mean, he only had one great year with Alabama. He's only been there 1 year. So, he hasn't had all that time. Olave's been there for 4 freaking years. He was a 4-year contributor. I mean, he was the guy. And ironically enough, he's the 3rd wide receiver in that wide receiver room at Ohio State this last year. And he's potentially going to be a 1st-round draft pick. So I at the immediate start would take Olave. And that's not me being a homer. I think his route running, I think his intelligence and his game experience, and on top of the fact, he's going to actually probably start the season versus Jamison Williams. Williams might actually start the season because he's actually ahead of schedule on his rehab, which is great. Mm-hmm. But I think that when you check all the marks right now, I think Olave is the guy that will get you more immediate, more production immediately than Jamison Williams.
Yeah, I loved what I saw from Olave, especially in that game against Clemson. Last year, I watched a lot of quarterbacks. My favorite one was Justin Fields. I'm going to say that. Yeah, my top 2 picks were Justin Fields and, Trey.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that.
I was with you. I said that, I thought that Justin Fields should have been, because in the biggest games, Justin Fields showed he could do it versus Trevor Lawrence. But that's an argument for another day. I'll piss off some Clemson fans if I want.
Yeah, they were even battling, in high school, and the number 1 quarterback in the country he edged them out. Justin Fields actually edged out Lawrence, but it is what it is. It goes where the numbers go or whatever how it goes. Well, I don't care. But yeah, I saw a lot of Chris Olave when I was watching
Justin Fields.
And it was awesome. I was like, damn, this guy has great routes. I remember asking my brother-in-law, because he's a big Ohio State fan as well. I said, Olave is going to be dope in the NFL. He goes, actually, he's going back to Ohio State. It's like, damn, dude, like he was going to be a late round pick, and he helped out his stock a lot. And then you watch Garrett, Wilson, you watch Marvin Harrison Jr., and I'm like, damn, these guys are showing up too. Like Olave,
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah,
having one of the most amazing ends to a season that I've ever seen. He was averaging like 9 catches for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns a game of the last 6 games of the season.
He's a redshirt freshman, right?
He's a sophomore. So next year,
was a redshirt eligible last year, right?
For the draft. And I mean, he's guaranteed number 1 receiver next year. I mean, just off of what you saw from him this last year.
Yeah. And another thing when I want to talk about free agency, actually, I have 2 things. Duran, you want to say anything?
I do. I want to go over a couple of the free agents that are coming up for the Colts.
Okay.
I mean, one, I was going to say, because we can talk about quarterback, but let's save that towards the end, because I thought that's more type of thing. But so Gus Bradley's your defensive coordinator. One guy that followed him to Las Vegas is Casey Hayward, and Casey Hayward had a great year last year. It pains me to say it, because the Bay Area rival for so long, they're not even in California. They stayed disloyal to the Bay. Was the Raiders? I hate to say it, but yeah, Casey Hayward, he showed up last year. He played really good. He defined, father time, and it always follows you. But do you want him to bring him in? Because if you bring him in, he's going to start. Do you want to bring him in to start, or do you want to, how do you feel about bringing in Casey Hayward?
Well, I look back to last season with Indianapolis, and Isaiah Rodgers, who was a 6th round draft pick in the 2020 class for us, is now one of our starting corners, made tremendous strides this last year, was sharing time with Xavier Rhodes to start the year, and Xavier Rhodes just wasn't the same guy. And I don't know if Xavier Rhodes is going to fit into the mold as much with Gus Bradley as I think as Casey Hayward could. I was completely under the assumption I am fully prepared for Ballard to say, let's drop Xavier Rhodes and let's bring Casey Hayward in. Again, a guy that knows the system, knows Gus Bradley's tendencies, even if he doesn't become the full-time starter, and getting up there in age, still is productive, knows the scheme, knows how to work some things. That would be great, because then it's another veteran that is able to be productive, helps out these young corners that the Colts are trying to mold. And especially when you're coming into a situation now where you have a completely new defensive staff, it's going to be tough on these corners to adapt to this scheme the way that a guy like Casey Hayward would be able to show them the ropes and how to make things easier for them. I think that's a no-brainer.
Okay.
All right. I want to ask about a couple guys that you might be losing. Their contracts are either coming to an end or something like that. Got 2 guys on the offensive line, Eric Fisher, Mark Gronkowski, and then T.Y. Hilton, Pascal, Mo Alley Cox, and Marlon Mack. So those are 6 or 7 guys right there. Is there anyone you want to prioritize bringing back?
Well, you mentioned Fish, you mentioned Glowinski, you mentioned Cox, Hilton, Mack, and I'm missing someone. Pascal. Okay. Fisher, I think you almost have to bring back because there is almost no market for left tackle. There's almost no market for the free agency wise. And I don't think drafting one in the 2nd round is going to be a smart idea to say that's going to be your franchise guy going forward. You almost have to bring Fisher back on a team-friendly deal. So there's that one. Glowinski, if they don't bring Glowinski back, they damn near better bring Chris Reed back. That's all I'm saying. One of those 2 guards needs to stay because Glowinski, 30 years old, but ironically enough, he's been the most available offensive lineman on this entire group. Every single person on this group has missed significant time over the last 2 years, over the last 3 years. Glowinski hasn't missed anything. He's been available all the time.
And they say, what's the best ability?
Is availability.
I think he played over 90% of the snaps too.
Yes. Yeah. He's always there. He's improved drastically over the last 3 years. I've watched it firsthand. I mean, there were times in 2018, Cody would text me in the middle of games and say, can we get Glowinski's trash ass out of here? I'm sick and tired of watching him block. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about we need to extend him. So he's been really good. I would like to re-sign him. Marlon Mack is almost a guaranteed no-go.
You got a filler.
He wants to go explore his options.
As he should.
The Colts tried to trade for him, but everyone said, well, why would we trade for a running back that we know you're not going to bring back the next year anyways?
Yeah.
So nobody did that. And I'm going to say this, and I hate that I'm saying it because it's going against, me trying to be a Colts homer. I hope Marlon Mack goes to the Buffalo Bills. I really hope he does. I think that him mixed with that Buffalo offense, perfect fit for him, is with a great team. They could pay him a decent penny. They need a running back. I mean, they need at least a first or second running back. I mean, Zach Moss isn't going to do everything for you. And Singletary, I don't know how much faith they have in him to carry everything. So we'll see how that works out. But Mo Cox, you need to bring back.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I thought Jack Doyle would kind of allow you to easier move on.
He's contemplating retirement. So that's one thing. Second off, he is not a good receiving threat anymore. He's 32 years old. He's a great.
Oh, I didn't know he's that old.
He's a great run blocking tight end, but he's limited in the receiving game. And that's where I think Mo Cox at this moment in time is your best overall tight end in that room. So you need to keep him around unless you go out and you get a big name tight end like Mike Gesicki or Zach Ertz or something like that. They need to make a move like that unless they're going to just bring Mo back. And then what do we say? T.Y. Hilton?
Yeah, 32.
Yeah, how do you feel about that, man?
I've had to mention this several times, and this gets to me, and I hate that I have to keep talking about it, but I will. T.Y. Hilton, I think Cody himself, I think T.Y. Hilton has become his favorite current Colt because there's nobody that is a better man and a better teammate than T.Y. Hilton. He's going to go down as one of the greatest Colts to ever put on the uniform. He's the third best wide receiver that's ever been in this franchise's history. And, he has never once complained about anything. And last year, it was a struggle to bring him back, but Irsay got it done. And it sounds like he wants to play again, which is crazy. Me personally, and I think this might sound rude saying it, but I kind of wished he would retire.
Yep.
With all the injuries he sustained, I hate seeing him go through that. I hate seeing it because over the last 3 years, I've witnessed this guy continue to lose games due to his health, and I just don't want to see him struggle anymore. It's been getting worse and worse. But I will say this, if T.Y. wants to come back and the Colts can get him on a veteran minimum deal to keep him around as an influence in the locker room because he's a veteran, he's an amazing teammate, and you can get him for cheap, then I'm totally for bringing T.Y. Hilton back just for that kind of role.
Got it. I got one more question. It's about a defensive free agent that's coming up, and it's just because I haven't watched him at all, but I remember him coming out of college. That's Quedin Muhammad. He was one of those guys where he had tremendous talent, but I think it was off the field issues or something made him fall in the draft. But he was a guy that I wanted Dallas to take a late round flyer on. What do you think of him?
I'll say this. He definitely has the heart to play the position. Is kind of undersized. He's more of a speed edge guy. It's kind of funny because, people made fun of Joey Bosa for a long time, saying that he was never really fast. So he couldn't possibly be a great defensive end because he'd just get walled up by these left tackles when I knew that was going to be crap. I mean, speed doesn't always matter on the edge. But Quedin Muhammad is, ironically enough, he led the team last year on the defensive end group, led them in sacks, which I think was like 6.5. So, Quedin, I appreciate the role he has played. He's been put into a situation that I don't think he was going to thrive in, but he did it anyway, and he did a halfway decent job. The Colts need to upgrade over him, though. I kind of have been saying I don't think we should bring him back because I think that there are some other defensive ends that the Colts need to re-sign, and Quedin Muhammad, I just don't believe is one of them.
Yep.
So okay. Let's bring it to the quarterbacks. How do you feel about Carson Wentz and going forward? Just one word answer. Like, good to go? Yay or nay? Indifferent. Okay.
Is the one word I would use.
Okay. So out of the quarterbacks that have been talked about as far as trades go, free agents and whatnot, which guy do you want to bring in? Because I don't know. I mean, Trubisky's name's been a hot commodity as of late from what I've been reading. But then you got, Russell Wilson, who seems very indifferent with the Seattle Seahawks. You got Aaron Rodgers, which you never know. And he's actually a really good friend with former Colt Pat McAfee, who's been kind of swaying him towards the Colts. So you got Jimmy G. There's tons of names out there. Is there a guy that you want to bring in that you favor?
I've heard the Mitch Trubisky thing just like today, and I find that to be very comical. I would trade all my draft picks away for anything other than Mitch Trubisky. I'm not going that route. I will say this: any free agent quarterback that's on the market, hands down, I would rather have Carson Wentz come back than any of those guys. Any of them. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Jameis Winston or Teddy Bridgewater. None of them. I don't want any of them. When it comes to trading for one, I've heard the Jimmy G argument. Don't think that's smart. I personally do not think Jimmy G is an answer.
He's good at handing the ball off.
Good at handing the ball off. And
Taylor, man, he's
best
your
weapons
guy.
Deebo Samuel, the best hybrid guy in the league. George Kittle, arguably the best tight end in the league. And then Brandon Ayuk, who can stretch the freaking field. You know what the Colts have that's like that? None of that. We have a Michael Pittman who can make a few catches, but he's still not a finished product. He is nowhere close to the guy that Deebo Samuel is. And we don't have a tight end to throw the football to as a default, who has a catch radius of an insane amount. And we don't have a receiver like Ayuk who can stretch the field. We just don't have one yet. And I know people say Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. Yes, but Carson Wentz does that already. He does that job. He hands the ball off 30 times a game. It's the point of what do you do with those 20 to 25 passes during those games? And Jimmy Garoppolo is not the answer. I'm sorry. I'm not giving up Carson Wentz and a second or third round pick to get a guy that's going to be a slight upgrade.
You guys can keep Carson Wentz. We wouldn't want him anyway.
Yeah, and when we're talking about the Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers thing, that's what I'm banking my money on. I said it today that if the Colts don't get one of those two guys, I've said that they need to run it back with Carson because there's just no reason to draft one because there's nobody in the draft that I feel confident is going to go out there and do what's necessary to win us a game.
Gun to your head, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, go.
Russell Wilson.
I think he's got
Russell because I
more
think
years.
It would be less of a trade value. And also he has more years left in him, I believe. And I'll be completely honest with you. I think I would rather just have Russell Wilson just so I don't have to hear the bitching and complaining from the Colts media about how terrible of a person Aaron Rodgers is. That we already have a reporter out there that hates Carson Wentz because he's unvaccinated. And I could only imagine if Aaron Rodgers comes in here, I can see the article now. It'll say Colts go from one unreliable, unvaccinated quarterback to another unvaccinated quarterback who can't get out of the first round of the playoffs. Great job, Chris Ballard. I can see the headline already. So
yeah, but this quarterback's immunized.
Yeah, immunized. Yeah, I know. I get a kick out of hearing that every time. I love watching people get triggered by that. But yeah, honestly, I think Russell Wilson fits the scheme of Indianapolis really well. He would have an offensive line that he's never had before in Seattle. Obviously has a running back that he hasn't quite had since beast mode. And I mean, I think that Jonathan Taylor is a lot more explosive than Marshawn Lynch. And then, you know, if we can get some weapons for him, I think that'll work out. And of course, the defense is working on itself. I don't know. I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of them, but I think that Russell Wilson has 4 or 5 good years left in him. I think Rodgers might at some point just start to call it at some point.
Maybe this year.
I don't think he cares anymore.
Yeah, maybe this year. You
I mean,
maybe
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, you're right. He just doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you've noticed that anytime he's been on McAfee's show, he says like his favorite quote, and I loved it. He said, just giving less fucks. Like seriously, I just don't care anymore what people say about me or about anything. Like I just live spirit free at this point.
Yeah, you know, like it's bittersweet. I mean, I love him on McAfee because you get to see the kind of player he is, get to see the kind of person he is. You know, he's kind of like your modern day, you know, hippie.
Yeah.
Which is cool because like he's from California, but he lives more like the West, you know, South, you know, over here in, you know, we have West County. So he does more of that style, but he plays great football and he's super smart. But I wouldn't mind you guys taking Russell Wilson out of our division, not because he beats us constantly, but because I get to root for the guy. I mean, the guy plays for my favorite baseball team, the Yankees. So it's like I get to root for this guy, you know what I mean? So it'd be great to, you know, it'd be great to see him out of a Seattle Seahawks uniform. You know, he seems disgruntled the past 2 or 3 years there, and you know, it'd be great to see him, you know, succeed as corny as he is. You know, you know, when you got to see him on like the Manning cast, like, damn, this guy's smart. You know, I love listening to this guy talk about football. Talk about anything else, corny. Talk about football, smart guy. You know, like I like seeing him play.
He might lighten up after the NFL too. I always feel like the NFL is the most restrictive league when it comes to players talking. So player interviews to me really don't mean much because they all say the same exact bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, G?
No, man, nothing I can think of. The big thing was as far as the quarterbacks go. Yeah, I can't think of anything at the moment. To be honest,
that's it for me too. I think we got to get your boy Cody on here too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hear his side of the story.
You give him the opportunity to be a lot more open in how he speaks. He's very mild mannered when it comes to the podcast specifically. But when you get him on a topic he gets heated about, he goes unfiltered. And I love that. When I love to hear him every now and again do that because it's funny to listen to.
Awesome. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming on. It's been a great interview. It's been a great, you know, getting to know you, you know, as a fan, you know, one fan to another. I can tell you love football. You know, me and Duran, we both love football as well. So it's always great to, you know, meet a passionate fan. So again, we thank you for coming on. Duran, if you want to let, you know, everybody know where they can find us, you know,
of course, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you find your podcast. And of course you can get the video on YouTube as always.
Yep. And then on Twitter, you can follow us at Why We're a Fan, or you can follow me or Duran as well. You know, myself, it's G_Munez WWF. Duran, go ahead and shout out your handle.
At Duran WWF. And I'm pretty sure, little spoiler, I think we got a Packers fan coming up. I just locked him in. So join us for that.
Oh, we got a Packer fan coming up. Maybe he can talk to us about maybe Aaron Rodgers joining the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know. Well, we'll see. But Derek, go ahead and shout us out where we can find you. anything you're working on at the moment. One last time, let us know where we can find you.
Well, thanks again, guys, for having me on. It was a lot of fun to talk about this stuff. Again, I have a Colts podcast on YouTube or Google Podcasts, anywhere that you guys listen to your podcasts. We are on it. It's called Bring the Juice Colts Podcast. You guys can look us up, and my Twitter is at Derek_larger.
Bring the juice. Make sure to follow that. I'm definitely gonna give that more of a listen. I listened to a little bit on my drive. Internet wasn't too great on the drive, but I got to cut it in and out. But I love you guys' camaraderie on it. Yeah, we definitely got to bring Cody on. But
absolutely.
Derek, thanks again for joining us. Again, thanks for joining and listening to Why We're Fans. As always, cheers, boys and ladies.